I'm not having a great year so far. On the very day that I uploaded my last video, I got the news that my father had died, so I had to make an emergency trip back to the UK. It was difficult to find a flight, and flights are very expensive now. I ended up going to Bangkok and spending the night there, then going down to Singapore the following day, where there was an 11-hour layover. And by the time I got to my parents' place, it was a 48-hour journey. It was very, very tiring. The circumstances of my trip were quite depressing. The weather was freezing cold. I think the day of the funeral was the coldest day of the year. Everything was really expensive, and I just couldn't wait to get back to Thailand, but it was a trip that I had to make. And when I did get back to Thailand, soon after that I had to make another trip that was necessary, but I didn't really want to make. The process for getting a new UK passport has changed now. In the past I just sent documents off to Hong Kong from Thailand via DHL, the courier service, and got a passport back in the mail. Nowadays it's necessary to go to Bangkok, so that's where I've just been. And that was the purpose of my trip to Bangkok, but it was another trip that I really didn't enjoy. Bangkok continues to be the most visited city in the world. It's somewhere where everyone wants to go to, so why didn't I enjoy it? And thinking about it, the city's changed immensely. It's changed beyond recognition since when I first went there 36 years ago. And I've changed as well. I've got older, I've become more jaded, and I've been living in Thailand for 20 years this year. So things that were once a novelty and really interesting are now no longer a novelty. The novelty has worn off. When I first visited Bangkok in 1987, it was mostly on street level. There were no elevated highways or railways, and there weren't that many tall buildings. Now there are skyscrapers everywhere, mostly shopping malls and condos. There are elevated highways and railways everywhere, and they're clearing land to build even more skyscrapers. And it just makes me feel very claustrophobic, and it makes the intense heat and humidity of Bangkok even worse. On this trip, I was really taken aback at how many places were selling cannabis. And when Thailand legalised cannabis use, I think it was done with very good intentions. In Thailand, there's a lot of emphasis on Thai traditional medicine. And one part of that system is herbal medicine, the other parts being Thai massage and meditation. And I think the law was changed so that people who needed to use cannabis for medical purposes could use it. But of course, tourists coming to Thailand are just using the change in the law as an opportunity to get stoned. Sukhumvit is an area that I've avoided for many years, but the building I needed to go to was in Sukhumvit, and so I decided to get a hotel fairly nearby. These days I normally stick with Accor hotels, so I looked at the map to find the nearest Accor hotel and booked it. Now what I didn't realise, and call me naive, but the hotel was in one of Bangkok's major prostitution areas. And finding myself in such an area, I think it's just another reason why I didn't really enjoy this trip. In Thailand, it should always be a warning sign when your hotel minibar contains condoms. For me personally, the worst places to go in Thailand are those that have a lot of tourists. I meet a lot of tourists who are people who I'd rather not associate with, and it brings out the worst in Thais as well. Getting a taxi in Thailand should be easy. You just tell the driver where you want to go, he puts on his meter and takes you there. In touristy places like Sukhumvit, this never happens. The driver just refuses to go, or he gives you a crazy price and refuses to use his meter. On several occasions it was impossible to get a meter taxi on the street. I had to go back to the hotel and then ask the reception staff to order me a taxi with a driver who would agree to use his meter. It wasn't all bad. In Bangkok, as in all big cities, there are little ethnic areas, and when you go to these areas it's just like being in a completely different country. Around the Grace Hotel, there's a big Middle Eastern influence. It's the little Arab area of Bangkok. You can really feel the culture, and there are some great Middle Eastern restaurants. I love a good kebab, but it's impossible to get where I live in Thailand. That's certainly not the case in this part of Bangkok, where there's great Middle Eastern food everywhere. The Chinatown district is another fascinating area, and it's one of those places that has changed very little since I first visited Bangkok 36 years ago. Many parts of Bangkok now have just turned into areas of concrete skyscrapers and shopping malls, but you can still find areas that retain a certain amount of charm. The other area I enjoy wandering around is the Little India district in Pahurat Road. It's great to be able to go to an Arab area, a Chinese area and an Indian area all in one place. That was a brief summary of my recent trip to Bangkok, and I apologise for not having posted anything on this channel for so long. As I said at the start, it hasn't been a particularly easy year, and since I got back from the UK I've had to do a lot of stuff at home. But the good news is that things are starting to get a lot better very quickly. Okay, thank you for watching.